Well, good evening, Peter.
Good morning, Ron.
Yes, we just talked for a few minutes and we're now live and recording for tomorrow's video that I will post on YouTube and Facebook. And we're going to talk about our experience yesterday. And I will let you go first with your experience. I thought you were in Canberra, but you were actually in Sydney. And you can explain whatever you want to explain as way of introduction to the Monsanto rally or demonstration yesterday.
Yeah, well, I nearly didn't make it at all because my wife went into hospital on Friday evening, and I was quite resigned to not being able to go to Sydney. And she rang me up at 8:30 in the morning, and it takes me 3.5 hours to get to Sydney. And the rally was at 12, and she rang me up at 8:30 and said, "Drop me off some cash. I'll take a taxi home. They're letting me go home in a couple of hours, so why don't you just go to the rally?" And I had to pick up my friend as well. He thought he wasn't going to go either. He was going to go to his veggie patch and light a candle and have a vigil instead. And so I had to make a double detour via the hospital and pick up my friend and got on the road. And we managed to get there at about 10 past noon, so 10 minutes into the rally. And just before we got there, I'd printed out from Google Maps, I'd printed out my directions, and it was going to be really, really simple. And there was a 3-lane toll road and I got stuck behind this truck, and I was in the left lane, and it turned out to be an off ramp, which I didn't see the sign because I was right behind the truck. So I went off at the wrong off ramp, and I was lost, big old Sydney, and so all my instructions on my sheet were no good to me because I was somewhere else. And the funny thing was that I just drove, and whenever I felt like turning left or I felt like turning right, I would just do it without question. And then we drove for a while, and I said to Colin, my friend, I said, "Look, we're either really, really lost or we're really, really close." And as I said that, I looked to the left, and there was a big hotel called the Hyde. And I looked to my right, and there was Hyde Park, which was where the demonstration was. So the moment I thought we're close or we're lost, we were actually there, and it was just amazing. It was
Great
just
guidance.
Yeah, I said to Colin, I'm driving by sense of smell, and there was no urgency, I just felt calm, and just whatever I felt like I did. And then we started looking for a parking garage, because finding a spot to park in downtown Sydney is, it's not an easy thing on a Saturday when the place is packed. And so I drove around looking for a parking garage, and I ended up finding a street car park, one road parallel to the park, which had a 4-hour limit, so it was perfect. And so it all fell into place. It didn't sort of go the way I'd planned with my wife, and she's fine, by the way, going into hospital and everything. And I was so resigned, so it went a completely different way from what I thought it would, the journey. But I got there in the end, and that was really great. We had a fantastic time. We really did. There wasn't much going on in the way of real protesting. I wouldn't call it protesting. I've been an activist, most of my younger adult life and my teenage years, and I've been involved in many movements and protests, and there's usually a bunch of people, somebody who's the real demagogue, sort of egging everybody on with a megaphone or something like that, and everybody shouting what they're against and what they want the government to do. And what I saw in Sydney was a real maturity of the human spirit, real maturing of humanity in terms of it wasn't a protest. It was a rally in support of life, and it was a rally in support of freedom. And people were talking more about solutions than they were talking about the problems. And that's really different from all the other demonstrations and things that I've been to in the past, is that people say, yeah, what Monsanto are doing is absolutely horrible, and they're a horrible bunch of so-and-sos, but what we really need is this. We need a permanent, sustainable permaculture food forests, a greening of our urban environments. And so many people had so many great plans too. And so the situation was really, really positive. It wasn't a negative, we're against this or that protest. It was a protest in support of life. And I loved each and every minute of it, and I shoved my camera in just about everybody's face. So I've got a 1 hour video that I've just kind of clumsily finished editing because I just want to get it out there quick, and I'm going to upload that tonight for people to share. And the response on Facebook, I think, has been good. The only downside was that we got no mainstream or lamestream media coverage in Sydney at all, nothing. And I thought that was just a little bit ridiculous. But when you consider that Goldman Sachs has just bought up one of our 5 major channels, and the other one's owned by the mining companies, and you get people like, the Packers and the Murdochs owning the rest, then, in Australia we really don't have anything in terms of a mainstream media that is not biased in any way, let me put it that way. So... But I talked to the organisers afterwards. We sort of had a bit of an after-party sit-down and a chat, and I said to him, "Have you had any contact from the media?" And he sent out something like 192 emails and with press releases to all the press, and he got 0 returns.
Yeah, well, my experience was easier than yours. I didn't have to drive 3.5 hours. The Melbourne City Hall which is where we were organizing, and it's Melbourne, Florida, not Melbourne, Australia. Just for the listeners to know that we're talking about 2 different countries. But they have a big parking garage there, so I actually parked really, really close to where the whole thing was, and it took me maybe 10 or 12 minutes to get there from my house. So not nearly the thing you went through. And I didn't want to carry a sign, so I actually I used to work for a company called Best Buy. You probably don't have Best Buy over there, but I actually put a little sign on my Best Buy shirt that I had on. Oops, I have it upside down. It helped to turn it the right way. It says, "Monsanto products are never your Best Buy." And
that's creativity.
But of course, there is no such thing as a Monsanto brand name. Monsanto is merely a company that has brands and puts their products in a lot of other brand items. And I would say that the Melbourne event was probably a bit more in opposition. People were more in opposition than actually coming up with things, although there were people saying that there are other problems that we have to deal with as well. One lady says we really need to be focusing on chemtrails. That was her big issue. And I said, well, I think we really need to be focusing on changing the financial structure of our world, because that's where all of the other problems come from, the greed and the corporatization of our world is where the real problem lies, but most people still don't see that as the issue.
Yeah, how do you unite people, behind a cause? How do you unite them behind a cause? And it's really difficult because everybody has a different angle and perceives a different problem. I think Monsanto is a big problem because Monsanto is getting too high and mighty, and they're getting too close to their goal of dominating the world's food. And once you dominate food, then everybody's got to eat your stuff, so everybody's going to be your slave because you can then set the terms, the prices, the
poisons.
And who can and who can't, and so it's a quick road to slavery at the moment, and so I'm seeing that in terms of all the New World Order sort of problems as one of the biggest ones out there right now, and one we have to deal with right now. And of course, I believe in holistic medicine, and when I get sick, I use homeopathy, or I use herbs, or I use my Beck protocol machine, or something like that. But I've been in a situation where I had a throat infection years ago that none of that worked on, and I ended up in hospital, and I had to have IV antibiotics. And I would like to solve all of the world's problems in a holistic fashion. But when problems become as acute as that throat ache, which I see Monsanto as being, then we may have to take the antibiotic and actually get a little bit rough with them,
Yeah, the solutions are not easy to come by because we've been so indoctrinated in the current system. I do want to ask, about how many people do you think attended the rally in Sydney, approximately?
We had probably a peak of 500, I'd say. but there was a lot more moving through over the 3 or 4 hours. So we probably had an attendance of somewhere between 1,000, 1,500 all up at different times. But at peak, probably 500, 600. That's my best bet. And I've got a good eye for crowds. I used to work as a sound engineer, so
Okay.
I got a good idea of how many people look like, what that looks like. So
Yeah, we there were over 500 people signed up on Facebook for the Melbourne thing, and I had a chance to meet many of my friends there. Although I was disappointed that some people that I was looking for I didn't see, but he estimated that there were at least 1,000 people there at peak. I only was there for an hour and a half approximately, and I don't know how long after I left it was still going on. I did not stay till any conclusion. Were there any speakers at your event?
yeah, we had several keynote speakers, and I delivered the speech as well that my wife and I co-wrote. I sort of came in at they had an open mic at the end of the keynote speakers, so I kind of snuck in first after the keynote speakers and did my speech, which went really well. Actually, it was really well received, and there were some very good speakers there. I've got some of that on video. Some of it had to be edited out because it was very noisy and everything like that. So I haven't done a very professional video, but there's a good record of it all out there. And most of those keynote speakers, again, were really talking about solutions more than we're talking about problems. And, the solution is basically take agriculture back where it belongs. It belongs in your backyard and it belongs in your front yard. You need to get your hands dirty. You have to be in contact with the earth, and it's about a feeling,
Yeah, it is. You're right. Yeah, there were
Yeah.
no speakers at our event. In fact, somebody said, Ron, they were looking for keynote speakers or looking for speakers. Why weren't you there? I said, because I wasn't invited.
Yeah, I sort of stuck my nose in. My wife said, "You got to deliver a speech, and I'll write one." And I went, "Okay, if you write one, I'll try and deliver it." And I was quite insecure about all that. Actually, I'm not much of a demagogue, rouse them up sort of speaker, but I went in and I gave it my best shot, and I got up to the mic and said, "Hi, I'm Peter. I came down from Canberra, and I'm nervous as hell about reading out this speech, but I'm looking at all you guys, and all I can see is my family. So why the heck am I nervous?" And I just delivered the speech, and it got a good response. It got a great response.
Was there a police present? You said there was no press, and there was no press in Melbourne either. Not a single news crew was there, and they were also invited, and none of them showed up. But there were several police cars that were sort of keeping an eye on the crowd. They didn't interfere.
We didn't have any police interference or anything like that. We weren't marching. We were just stationary in Hyde Park there. So
Okay.
the proceedings were just friendly and gentle, and I don't think the police saw any cause for concern or anything like that. And considering the caliber of people that were there, there was absolutely no cause for that. And they might, sort of love somebody to death, I suppose, but overwhelm them with love. But that was what was there, and I did my speech, and I was this lady before me was doing this really, really, really long speech, and it was a really good one actually. She deserved to do a long speech, and I didn't have a bottle of water with me because all the stuff that I was going to take with me because of my altered travel plans, and I was getting a serious case of cotton mouth, and standing in the sun, and in Canberra it's already quite cold. Sydney's quite a lot warmer than Canberra because it's closer to the ocean. It's lower. And I was getting really dry, and I did my speech, and I felt quite good, but I had to go and rush to the other end, which was the quiet end of the park where there was a kiosk to buy a bottle of water. And Colin and I walked back, and he patted me on the back and said, "Oh, you did a great job, and let's go grab a drink." And he grabbed himself a coffee. I grabbed myself a bottle of water, and I sat down on the park bench, and I was just sort of just going blank for a moment, just detaching from it all, and just becoming quiet. And I became quiet, and this bush, this plant was there, and it was winking at me. It was trying to catch my attention, and it did catch my attention. And as soon as my attention went to that bush, there was silence, and there was a communication. And it was a communication from Gaia. It was a communication from the whole of nature, and it's a wordless, thoughtless process. It's a feeling. Connecting with nature is the feeling, and we're feeling creatures much more than we are thinking creatures. Really, we've just been turned ass backwards, back asswards.
Like everything else in our culture.
Yeah, exactly. And the communication was a feeling, and I felt the whole of the earth, and every plant, every tree, every flower, everything living on the earth was at this demonstration, was making the same statement that the humans were. So in words, the bush was sort of saying to me, it's not just you humans, we're rejoicing with you. We're feeling that this is a moment of change. We're broadcasting across this planet this vibration that you guys have started, and we're one with you in this. And that came through to me, and I just sat there sort of quiet and a little bit sort of stunned, trying to put it in imagery and words what had just been communicated to me. And I turned to my friend and I said to Colin, what sort of a bush is that? And Colin said, Pete, don't you know that's a rose bush? It had roses, and the moment he actually said it, I actually labeled it and gave it a name and knew that it was a rose bush. But when it first caught my attention, I didn't say, oh, that's a rose bush that's swinging. I just didn't label it. I didn't name it. And in that not naming, in that, there was just none of that thought was there to mess with it, none of that picture from memory that calls that a rose bush or whatever. And the moment that's gone, that feeling, it's that feeling that you get when you're digging in your garden. And I'm the world's worst gardener, a real dilettante. But I've started this year and, put in the hard yards and built wicking beds. And, for anybody that doesn't know what a wicking bed is, Google it and you'll see it's a beautiful way of growing vegetables in small spaces and large spaces. And, it's like my 10-year-old daughter has just completely changed and transformed through that, because she started to, she's become someone now that if something new pops its head up in the garden, she gets so excited about it and she really feels it. And you can see this enthusiasm and this passion and this connectedness happening. And, she was a real sort of Xbox and video games indoors kid. And she's completely changed. And there's a new level of maturity in her emotional makeup just from being involved with nature and growing stuff. And that is that feeling that we are missing. And it's that feeling that they don't teach us in school either. You're either a sports jock or you're an intellectual giant, and anything else doesn't get taken into account. And a lot of people who are sensitive in that sense, this emotional intelligence, let's call it that, it gets so neglected. And that's just the thing that we connect to nature with.
What do you think the impact worldwide will be? I mean, I just see it as an energetic thing that can't fail, because people are waking up. And even if they're only recognizing the problems and no solution, it's still changing the consciousness. As I see it.
Absolutely. It is an energetic event, and it's an event in consciousness. It is actually the maturing of humanity's collective consciousness. Events like these, things happening worldwide like that, are just the sign of just that this maturing. It's given me more faith in what is to unfold, because that level of maturity really is an expression of an energy that is unfolding, getting ready, making alterations in the mind to think in different ways and to unfold a new paradigm. And it's actually shown me, personally, from my perspective, that humanity is ready to receive a new paradigm, because, we weren't talking distant times and sci-fi novels. We were talking about solutions we could implement now to actually build that bridge to bridge into the new paradigm. And that was really, really beautiful. I think the whole world will feel the impact of this, even if the press is being quiet about it, because it's actually something that's happened. It's an event that is signaling and externalizing something that has happened in the collective consciousness of humanity. I have a lot more faith now in that the timelines have been resolved, both the negative timelines and the positive timelines. And that's another thing. When I was sitting in the park, sort of in a bit of a meditative state in the week, I got a vision, and I don't often get visions. I'm more a feely sort of a guy. I don't see stuff, or I don't tend to sort of analyze what's going on as much as some people do. I suppose that's the difference between the occultist and the mystic in the old New Age speak. But I got that vision, and I saw all these various timelines, and they were converging into this one golden point of light. And this one golden point of light, I understood to be this march against Monsanto, is 25th of May. And I don't think it is changing something, but it is the symbol of a change that's already taken place. When you're thinking in non-linear time, it has already taken place. It's just that we've got to stop remembering the linear time and see what's actually already here. We have to just look and see, because it's already here, and that this march to me is the announcement of that, is saying, okay, stop remembering all this old stuff, stop paying energy into all this old stuff, because it's already here, and this is proof of it.
Yes, this was probably the biggest worldwide turnout that we've had since 2011. So I don't think there was anything this big in 2012. Actually, 2011, of course, was the Occupy stuff that really came to life during the summer and fall, starting, of course, in the winter in January in Egypt. But it went worldwide through that year, and then it sort of died down after the ninth wave ended. It sort of fizzled out into the beginning of 2012 until this is, as I said, I think this is probably the biggest worldwide event. I mean, they were all over the place on, I believe, every continent, probably except Antarctica. They probably didn't have too much going on there, but
I'm sure somebody stuck a note in their hat there too.
but it, as you say, I agree with you that it is a sign that things have already changed, because people are saying, look, we don't want any more of this. We want something that's sustainable. We want something that is truthful. No more of this deception of putting genetic modification in our food that is toxic and poison to the human anatomy. Although I think actually we are being genetically modified ourselves, so that poisons don't have the same effect as they might have had were we not having our own DNA modified by the cosmos.
Yeah, like Aristos was saying in the interview with you, which I really enjoyed, by the way.
Thank you.
But yeah, that solar upgrade is definitely there, and things are changing, and our DNA is being modified by the cosmos, which is just a natural flow of energy and a natural flow of cosmic evolution, if you want to call it that. And I'm sure that those sort of things. And what always strikes me is that the third awakening, to me anyway, the third awakening is in the gut. And it's in the awakening in the gut, which is where your umbilical cord is where you really become aware of the oneness of everything, not just as a concept or as a feeling, but as a knowing. And it seems to me that the overprescription of antibiotics nowadays in pharmaceutical circles, it wrecks your gut balance. Your immune system is mostly in your gut too, by the way. And then this GMO stuff is all about gut. So they're really trying to stop us from achieving what this DNA upgrade is meant to do to us, is make us aware of, ourselves as part of this whole, make us aware of this oneness. And all this sort of really heinous bad stuff that's out there seems to be targeting the gut,
Yeah, we definitely live at an interesting time, as I've often said, and I do believe the world is changing. Sometimes I get a little impatient and a little bit frustrated that it doesn't seem to be happening fast enough. But then there are things that happened like this yesterday, and just talking to the several friends that I had conversations with was really good for me. I actually, the man who is probably the most supportive of me financially, he donates like 4 to 6 times a year, and consistently so. And sometimes between one of his donations and the next one, nobody donates. So I got a chance to talk with him, which was really a beautiful thing. I haven't had a face-to-face conversation with him for some time, and it was really good to see him. And he's really optimistic, and so many other people that I didn't get the chance to connect with are more optimistic than they were even a couple of years ago. We're starting to see a shift in energy, at least I'm perceiving it so. There's still a lot of people that are asleep, but there's many more that are waking up. And
Yep. It's good for us impatient people because,
oh, you're impatient too?
Oh yeah, I am, and I think we have a right. If we have the right to any weakness at this particular point in time, then it's the weakness of impatience. Because we've deserved to be a little bit impatient. Because the way I look at it, we've spent so many incarnations working up to this, so many thousands of millions of whatever, and ungodly amount of years to get to this point that we're kind of getting tired in a way as well. And I feel that in the deepest part of my soul, of my spiritual sense, is that I'm a little bit tired and I would like this to be over. And I know that it's over. And I just want everybody else to know that it's over too. So get on with it. Wake up.
Yeah.
And
me too, Peter. You're expressing my feelings as well.
And I think, like I was saying, the analogy of the throat ache and the antibiotic, some of the things we have to be impatient about, because some of the things we will have to actually take maybe the non-holistic approach so that we can stop it and then apply the holistic approach later. And just to get back to that throat ache, once I actually had the antibiotics, to which I was badly allergic and got really sick from as well, the throat ache went away, but it came back. And then I actually stumbled upon propolis, which is a substance that bees make. It kills pretty much any bacteria known to man and is immune to bacteria can't get resistant to it. And propolis colloidal silver, and I took that afterwards, and it's never reoccurred since. So I did end up fixing it with a natural way, but I did have to have a big hammer to the head of it with the antibiotics. And I think maybe that's what our impatience is about too, is that some of the things are starting to get a little bit out of hand, and we're starting to get strong enough to maybe get a little bit tough with them. And that love sometimes also has a tough face.
Tough love. We've heard that expression.
Yeah. I think it's the mother who talks reason into you and makes you feel guilty, and therefore you change your bad ways. And it's the father who will put a hand to your backside when it really gets out of control, and then the mother will soothe you afterwards. So. I've always tried to see it all as a holistic process that sort of happens without too much chaos or violence or drama. But maybe there's going to have to be some of that, and maybe our impatience is a reflection of that. Or maybe we're just getting old and we would just want to see it before we die. I don't know.
Well, I know. I feel like I'm here until I see the change, because I've lived for this and I've wanted this my whole life, really, since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I've been aware of it. Anyway, we're going to wrap this one up. I do appreciate you coming back on and talking about your experience with me. And as I said, this will go on tomorrow morning, Monday. It'll be Monday's video, and I will hopefully get a chance to watch the video that you did earlier when you post it. So thank you, Peter. Is there anything that you would like to say just to wrap up and close?
Oh well, I just want to thank everybody that's going to be watching this, and everybody that was at the march physically. And I think there was so many more people there in every other conceivable way: meditation, prayer, light, love, the whole. It's just been an amazing presence, and I just want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart, because there is more than just hope now. Something has occurred, and there's real evidence of it, and there's more than just hope. And that I'm like you, Ron. I live to see this change happen, and that's what my whole life has been about. And that's what I do for a job now. I don't work anymore. I make videos. I talk to people. I'm working with consciousness. And, we all want to see that happen. And I think we've just seen the real first big crack in the wall appear right before us. And that's just a joyous thing. So thank everybody. Thank you. And we'll talk again soon, I hope.
Thank you, Peter. Blessings and namaste.
Namaste.